So the Gemara says that on Monday, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, they traveled a great distance from Refidim to Sinai, and Loi Amal Miday told them nothing. Mishem Chulsha Da'orcha, they were tired from the trip, and the Rebbe gave us his first explanation. What's the first explanation? That the trip they took was exhausting because they had to travel to a place called acceptance. That's how we're going to read this, right? What does it mean? They accepted God. Finished. If you accept God, there's nothing to complain about, and there's nothing to argue about. And accepting God, this is going to be a surprise to you, is even more difficult than accepting your husbands. Husbands are very hard to accept. I know I'm one, but accepting Hashem is harder. He's less predictable. He's even less communicative. Can you imagine somebody less communicative than your husband? Your husband doesn't talk. God talks even less. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants, and we're stuck with his decisions. That the Jewish people accepted HaKadosh Baruch Hu was exhausting. That's the first pshat in the Sicha. Now, text, please. Page 10, second column, Dalet. Atifere biur, a deeper interpretation. Yesh loymar in them. I want to add to this. I just explained to you that Moshe told them nothing on the Chodesh Sivan, because on that day they achieved shalom bayis by accepting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it was an exhausting journey. And it is exhausting. But the Rebbe says, I want to add something even more. And the Rebbe continues and says like this: Chulsha Da'orcha, which means tired from the trip, fatigued from the journey, is nit nor on inyan for chesar. It's not just a lack. You walk a long distance, you're tired. You psychologically push yourself very far, you're tired. For a human being in an intimate relationship, to go from the place of judgment to go to the place of acceptance is incredibly difficult. And it's tiring. But that means that the tiring is a bad thing. Right? I worked hard and I got tired. So it's an excuse, but it would have been better if I worked hard and didn't get tired, right? Fatigue, weakness is not a good thing. It's a reality. Sometimes you work very hard to get tired, but no one's going to say it's a good thing. Oh yeah, I'm so wonderful, I'm exhausted. You're wonderful that you have energy. You're also energy that you're wonderful that you used your energy. But when a person is tired, the fatigue itself is not advantageous. Why you're tired may be advantageous, but being tired is not by itself a maila. So the Jewish people traveled very far. They achieved the status of shalom bayis, of acceptance of Hashem. It's a wonderful thing. But their being tired is a symptom of running out of koyach. It's a chasara. So the Rebbe say, you got it all wrong. The chulsha da'orcha, the fatigue from the trip in this case is not a deficiency. Nor in this particular case, adrabah, to be sure, the Yidden being tired is actually not a result of working hard. It's an aliyah in the Jewish people. Being tired is a wonderful thing. Not being tired is proof that you did a wonderful thing. In this case, the fatigue itself is wonderful. Now, girls, I'm going to do something which I never do. Go to the end of the Sicha. Go to page 14, please. Go to page 14. I'm going to come back to this. Go to page 14. First underline. You have it? Und das sagt die Gemara, when the Gemara says, that Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people nothing on this Monday, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, in the year 2448, Mishum Chulsha Da'orcha, because they were tired from traveling. So the Rebbe says these words. You're listening? Di Orcha, this trip, Halicha Ruchnis, this spiritual journey, as alle Yidden, all of us, from Moshe Rabbeinu, beginning with the greatest of the great, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, with them to the lowest and simplest of us, which is moi, shall be Yisro amongst the Jewish people. Zolin is ached veren, should become one, right? So there's two parts. For us to have shalom bayis with Hashem, you have to have shalom bayis with one another. We accept God, amazing, and in accepting God, we all find out that we get along with one another, accept one another. Says the Rebbe, it's verbunden mit chulsha, has to do with weakness. But weakness is lamal yusa. Weakness is an advantage, right? What's the example for this? You know the example for this? What example for this? Kedusha and Klippa. The Jews and the Nazis. Oh, I got your attention. Hitler hated the Jews, you know that? He hated the Jews, right? Why did he hate the Jews? He hated the Jews on different levels. Practically, he hated the Jews because he blamed the Jews for the peace treaty at Versailles. He blamed the Jews, the communists, whatever you call them, for the armistice, the end of World War I. the Germans didn't lose. They surrendered. And then there was the Treaty of Versailles, which gave the Germans very, very bad conditions. It was cruel. He blamed the Jews for the Treaty of Versailles. Not he blamed French Jews, he blamed German Jews. That the Germans were involved, the Germans who went to negotiate representing the Jewish whatever it is, and they blamed the Jews. That's the political explanation. But what was Hitler's issue with Jews in general? You know what Hitler said about Jews? They make people weak. They have mercy, they're kind, they're forgiving, they're helpful. Hitler was an evolutionist, period. Strict. What's a strict evolutionist? If I walk in the street and I see you fall down because you're too weak and you're too tired, I go over to you and take your wallet. Survival of the fittest. I'm stronger than you. When I'm going to get old and I'm going to fall down, someone's going to take my wallet. That's not bad. People, animals, are incredibly efficient, right? They have incredible reflexes. They run very fast. They hear very sensitively. They see very far. Why? Because they have to survive. Imagine you put animals in a place where they don't have to think and they don't have to be sharp because they're going to protect them from their hunters. They'll become fat and blind and deaf, and uncoordinated and slow. Hitler said the Jews are introduced to the world religion. What's religion? Be kind. Someone is sick, help him. Someone dies, bury him. Someone is hungry, feed him. Don't take away his shoes. So Hitler said the Jews are destroying evolution. They're stopping evolution. Evolution said human beings are hard and tough. The whole German model, hardness and toughness. You're hard, you're tough. You do exercise, you're physically fit. You're better than everybody else. A superior race. Why? Because we're harder and tougher. And the Jews make us soft. That's the real reason he hated the Jews. Jews make us soft. And to be sure, he hated the Christians. It's documented that when Hitler said, the day I finish with the Jews, I'm going to turn on the Christian religion. Because Christianity comes from Judaism. And it has at its base kindness. Hitler was against kindness, like Saddam. Because kindness makes people weak. When someone is crying, punch him in the nose. Not allowed to cry, you're not allowed to be weak. To be strong and tough, you become better. This was a philosophy. How did Hitler come to be? How did such a human being be created? There's a long story, not for now. It's his fault. But he doesn't talk. I told you, he doesn't talk. He talks less than your husband does. You can't even argue with him. It's all his fault. Now wait, I mean that. Now wait. And Hitler lost. He created a Germany based on hardness, and they were broken. What does that prove? What does that prove? Now listen carefully to what I'm about to say. That soft is harder than hard. Write this down. Soft is harder than hard. The Jewish people are soft, yeah, but we're still here. All those who try to defeat us using strength destroy themselves. Soft is harder than hard. And there's a Gemara that says this very succinctly. One line. The Talmud says, the Gemara says, you should be soft and flexible like a reed. Don't be hard like a cedar. What's tougher, a grass or a 100-foot oak? You know what an oak tree is? Yeah, it's a big tree that's very hard wood that they use to make fancy schmancy furniture, right? And the wind blows and the oak doesn't budge. And you have a little tiny grass, you blow on it, the grass moves. So who's tougher, a grass or an oak? What's the answer? Depends how hard the wind is blowing. If the wind blows too hard, the oak has to bend. But the oak cannot bend. It's going to break. You understand? If you're soft, you bend and you pop back up. So this is a Gemara. Better be a Jew. Don't be a German. Be soft and flexible than hard and firm, because when you're hard and firm and you have to bend, you break. If you're soft and flexible, you bend and you pop back up. And if you know Kabbalah, and of course all of you know Kabbalah, everyone's an expert on Kabbalah, right? As long as no one knows any Kabbalah, we're all experts. One guy figures it out, and we'll become Hamaratzim. Since no one knows, we all know a lot of stuff. In Kabbalah it says this is Toyu and Tikkun. Eilam HaToyu is hard. Eilam HaTikkun is soft. Kedusha is soft. Klippa is hard. And soft is harder than hard. So the Rebbe says Rosh Chodesh Sivan comes and the Jewish people become weak. Weak doesn't mean they run out of energy. Weak means they pour all their energy into becoming soft. So the weakness is not weak. I have no koyach. Weakness is investing in weak. It's investing in softness. And that's how they achieved acceptance of God and acceptance of one another. Let's read the Sicha inside. Bevakasha. Yes? Page 14. As first, second column at the beginning, as Allah Yid and all the Jewish people from Moshe Rabbeinu, Biz, then Poshet Shebepshutim She'esol to the simplest of Jews. Zolon is Achad Veren, should become one. Is verbunden mit Chulsha Lemalyusa. It's connected to weakness, but weakness is good. Because weakness means softness. And when you're soft, you bend and you don't break. Achalisha, so bittel and yidden, a softness and a bittel in the Jewish people. And as a result of that softness and a result of that bittel, they were able to accept God, and in accepting God, they were accepting one another. So what is the meaning of the word? Miday. On Monday, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Moshe didn't tell the Jewish people anything. Misum Chulsha Da'orcha. Not they were tired from the trip, but they took a trip to a place called tired. They traveled to a place called softness. Chulsha doesn't mean weak. Chulsha means soft. Chulsha Da'orcha. The journey of that day was not a journey of who's stronger, who's smarter, who understands better. It was a journey of who's softer. Says the Rebbe. In conjunction with this, Moshe told them nothing, because the idea of preparation for Matan Torah, to accept Hashem, the idea of preparation for Matan Torah, where I stop sizing up my partner and deciding if I like him, if I don't like him, and what I like him, but what I don't like, but I accept him, says the Rebbe, is nit verbunden mit einer Amira, has nothing to do with instructions, has nothing to do with things that require strength. The whole idea is be quiet, shtikol bittel, silence and bittel, silence and acquiescence. That's how you achieve softness. So Mishum Chulsha Da'orcha means that they were tired from the trip. They traveled to a place called tired. They traveled to a place called soft. How soft? I have no complaints to the Eibishter. And I get along with all the Jews near me. That's pretty impressive, huh? Jews getting along. What's wrong? Did you understand? So according to the first pshat in the Sicha, the Yidden traveled and they became tired from traveling. Where did they travel to? They traveled to a place called acceptance. According to the second pshat in the Sicha, they traveled. Where they traveled? They traveled to accept. And acceptance is soft. Acceptance comes from weakness. The ability for a person to be soft, the ability for a person to be accepting is the basis for success. There's a drasha that all the Rosh Hashivas give. I have an acquaintance who always says this word. I never heard this from the Rebbe, but the Mastagdim say this word a lot. That there's a Gemara about Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was drowned at sea. His ship capsized at sea, and he fell into the ocean. And they thought for sure he died. And then days later, he washed ashore. They found him. So they asked Rabbi Akiva, "How did you survive?" He says, "Very simple. Every time I saw a wave coming at me, I bent my head. I didn't resist. I bent my head. I didn't fight it if I'd have fought against the wave." So every time he saw a wave, he bent his head, the wave went over him, and he was still there. So sometimes soft is harder than hard. That's at Chulsha Da'orcha. They journey to a place of softness, a place of silence, a place of weakness. There is more strength in weakness than there is in strength. Right? Is it good to cry or is it not good to cry, huh? Is crying strength or crying weakness? You know the story with Eli Wiesel. You know the story with the chief rabbi. I love telling this story. Rabbi Lau. I love talking about Rabbi Lau. An unbelievable Jew. Rabbi Lau tells a story on the JLI. He told it by one of the conventions, the JLI retreats. He converted your mother. He's the chief rabbi of Etzol, the former chief rabbi. Rav Arashili Israel. He's a Holocaust survivor, an amazing man. So he tells a story. He was the youngest child in Auschwitz. He was 9 when the war ended. He survived with Nissen. He was 9 when the war ended in 45. Amazing. So they took a whole bunch of children who were orphans, had no parents, and they put them in an orphanage outside of Paris. There were 300 children. He was the youngest, and the oldest were 17-year-olds. And he tells us, I was with Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel was his friend, Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel was 17, he was 9, and they're both in the same orphanage. There were a bunch of children. And there was a lady, a French woman, I'm assuming a French Jew, who took care of them. And she was very maternal. She was incredibly nice. She loved them and they loved her. She really, really took care of them. These were children who had no fathers and no mothers. No fathers and no mothers. Nishka tata, nishka mama. They had nothing in the world. They were orphans. They had nothing. They had nothing. They had nothing. They didn't have cousins, they didn't have uncles, they had nothing, nothing. And this lady was looking after them. And one day she comes to them and she tells them that there are going to be dignitaries coming from Paris to this camp, with this place where these orphans are, and they're going to give them all gifts. And the dignitaries are going to be French. So the kid said, really, when they sent 75,000 Jews from France to the concentration camps, yeah? These same dignitaries, yeah? Now they want to come and we don't want them and we don't want their gifts. Tell them they shouldn't come. We don't want their gifts. We don't want to see them. French dignitaries, really, they sent 75,000 Jews to the gas chambers. We don't need their gifts. But she knew that this was very important because she had to pay the bills. So she said, I'm asking you to do it for me, please. I'm begging you. It's very, very important that they come. It's very important that they see you. Do it for me. So they said, okay, for you we'll do it. So they put up a stage on the lawn. The dignitaries came, 4 or 5 different people. So the kids all came and they turned their backs. They stood with their back to them. The speakers spoke and the kids had their back to them. When they offered them gifts, these kids had nothing. They didn't take the gifts. They had nothing. They had nothing. They had the socks they were wearing. They didn't take the gifts. So you had one speaker, a second speaker, a third speaker. The last speaker was a French Jew who was in Auschwitz. And he survived and he came back to France. He had a big business before the war. He came back after the war and he got his business back somehow. So he was a wealthy man, but he was one of them. He was one of them. You understand? He was in Auschwitz. He wasn't the French people who sent the Jews off to the concentration camps, and now they're trying to make him like us. So when he got up to speak, the children turned around to look at him. And he got up and he said, "I kinderlach!" And he started to cry. Children. And he lost it. He just fell apart. He couldn't speak. "I kinderlach!" He started to cry. So you have to watch. Rabbi Lau is the best storyteller in the world. I mean, maybe second best to Yossi Jacobson, but he's an incredibly good storyteller. He says, this man gets up, and all the children turn around to look at him, and he says, "I kinderlach!" And he starts to cry. And Rabbi Lau says, all of us, we were done. We finished crying. There were no more tears left in our ducts. We were done. We never cried. They were hard as stone. He says, this guy standing up on the stage and crying, and you look around, and you see one kid doing like this, and the second kid doing like this. Within 5 minutes, all 300 of those children were bawling. They were crying uncontrollably. They cried for a long time. And finally, one of the oldest boys stands up, and he says to this French man, this French Jew, "Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift." So he says to them, "They told me that you're refusing the gifts. We were told that you're not taking the gifts. You're not taking the gifts." He says, no, the gift of tears. That we be able to cry. Fast forward 50 years. 50 years. Rabbi Lau was the chief rabbi of Eretz Yisrael. And we had the Intifada. And there was a suicide bombing. So Rabbi Lau runs to the hospital where they brought in the victims, the wounded. And there's an old man laying on a gurney, an old man laying on a stretcher. And Rabbi Lau passes him. And suddenly here's Rabbi Lau As he turns around and comes back, the old man, he says, you know who I am? He says, no. He says, I know who you are. I've been following your whole life, he tells him. I've been following you your whole life, since you're 9 years old. And he says to him, I was the boy who got up on the lawn and said to this French Jew, thank you for the gift of tears. So you tell me, is soft hard or soft? What's softer? Soft or hard? So what's made Chulsha Da'orcha? They were not tired from traveling. They allowed themselves to be soft. Chulsha means the journey of softness. And the journey of softness resulted in being able to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to accept one another. Beautiful, huh? I didn't write this, I just teach it. Now, girls, let's go back. Let's go back to page 10, okay? Please. Vayichan Sham Yisro. You know how I work? I read only the underline. If you read the underline, you'll be good, okay? Vayichan Sham Yisro, the Jewish people rested on Sinai, as alle Yidden, all the Jewish people. If somebody wants, I have one more here. From Moshe Rabbeinu, bis Pashat Bepshutim, from Moshe Rabbeinu to the simplest of the simple. Seinen is achet geworden, be'achtus gemura, we're unified in an absolute unity. Belev echad, not just as one person, but with one heart. Like we learned the two Sichas before this one, about which comes first, each echad, the belev echad. Next underline, when the fun is moving, is understood from this. As by alle Yidden, how could it be that all people have one heart? How could it be that all people have one heart? So the Rebbe says in this Sicha the following, it's understood, as by Yidden is faran an nekuda shebelev, that every Jew has a point inside his heart, in welcher is gleich in Sichos, where there is a neutralization, kish echad, belev echad, like one person with one heart of all people. We're individuals, we're supposed to be individuals, that's a strength, right? We're individuals, but someplace deep, deep, deep inside of us, we're one. Not we're one because we lose our individuality. We're one because we go past our individuality. We reach a place where things are so absolute and so simple that we're one. Page 11. Und dem is bestanden der Uftu. This is the nature of the effect from Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Har, that Israel rested there adjacent to the mountain. Translates the Rebbe, please look inside. Ständig Neged Har. They came to the mountain. Why did they come to the mountain? To Makabel Zayin, Kibel, Torah, Misinai, to receive the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Yidden came to the mountain, and the reason they came to the mountain, to receive the Torah, is by Zayin, is Gala Gevarin, this caused a revealing, a bringing forward, from Din Kudesh Abalev, that point in their heart, was Gleich Sichos alle v'yenin, where everybody is neutralized, our differences are wiped away, and we're all the same. And the Rebbe says, in them, this idea, that you come to Har Sinai, and the first thing you do is accept. I accept. You find a place inside of yourself where you're able to be soft, not hard, and you're able to accept. And that acceptance is the place where we're all the same. So when we accepted Hashem, we accepted one another. In them bashtet, this idea of allowing yourself to be weak, right? How do you say it in religious terms? What does it mean to be weak? To give up on your opinion. To let yourself believe. Let yourself believe. If a person has proof there's a God, yeah? If you have proof there's a God, if you have 100 proofs there's a God, do you have a relationship with Him? I'm asking you a question. If you have proof that there's a God, do you have a relationship with Him? No. You have proof that there's a God. How do you have a relationship with God? Forget the proof. I'm done. Close that up. I studied. I figured it out. Now I forget. Now, to have a relationship with Hashem, you have to let go of your brain. You have to let go of the proof. What they call making a leap of faith. Diluk, go away from the brain which brought me to God, and now just relate to Him simple. Yidden's most important preparation for Har Sinai was relating to Him simple, not fancy, not complicated, simple. And the Rebbe says these words, in dem bashtei der iker hachanat. Of all things, The most important thing we needed to do to prepare ourselves to receive the Torah was to be simple, was to be soft, was to put our brain aside and be able to accept. And in being soft, or as the Gemara says, being weak, and putting our brain aside in order to accept, we became unified not just with Hashem, but with each other. You understand? Turn the page. Page 12 now, okay? And the Rebbe continues. Der Chiddush von Ato Nigleisa von Matan Torah. See what I'm reading? I just read the words that are underlined. Anybody want a copy? I have one more left. This novelty of Ato Nigleisa von Matan Torah. When Hashem gave us the Torah, He revealed Himself to us. We saw Him. Is Shalei Be'erech is a whole nother level than whatever we had before. Lifnei Matan Torah, before Hashem gave us the Torah, we also had the Torah, right? You all know the Gemara. The Gemara says that Adam and Rishon learned Torah, that Sheis learned Torah, that Chaneich learned Torah, that Mr. Shalach learned Torah, that Neach learned Torah, that Shem learned Torah, that Avi learned. A lot of people learned Torah. And Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, finish the sentence, practiced the Torah. A lot of people studied the Torah, and Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov practiced the Torah. So if people learned the Torah before the Torah was given, and some rare people practiced the Torah when the Torah before the Torah was given, so what happened? Hashem gave us the Torah. So the difference wasn't in the book, it wasn't in the information, it wasn't in the data, it wasn't even in the ritual, it was in the simplicity. Says the Rebbe, Lifnei Matan Torah, before Hashem gave us the Torah, Vazlim, or that Torah is given mitzadem eigenim kech. People study Torah, but their study of the Torah has to do with their own intelligence. It's like a person who has proof there's a God. Koyach haseichel v'chol, their intellect and whatever else is necessary in order to make this conclusion. It's moving, it's understood. As mahad genumen von Torah, if a person's relationship with Hashem, a person's relationship with the Torah is based on how much he understands, if something is based on my understanding, how much of it do I accept? Only what I'm able to understand. Nor as I feel, only so much, wie viel der Lemed is bekecht zu massig sein, that this particular student is able to reach for Chachmas Inshallah Kadosh Baruch of the wisdom of Hashem. Every person understands Hashem a little bit more, a little bit less. We're different degrees of intelligence. So one is smarter, understands more. One is less, understands less. But it's all limited. However, when Hashem gave us the Torah, is the lim with the Torah be'efen. At this point, when we're studying Torah to such a level, the event of learning Torah is not just how much of God's knowledge I have, but let's say it in English, I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with God. Says the Rebbe, was hat allein sich hereingegeben mit Torah, because he wrote himself into his Torah. Now my relationship is infinite. Huh? When are you closer to your husband? When you like him because he's smart and talented? Or you like him and you forgot why? Seriously, you forgot why. If you like your husband because he's smart and he's articulate and he's handsome and maybe even kind, that relationship is it's a business deal. It's not a relationship, it's an arrangement. When you forgot why, then you're married. Yidden, before Matan Torah, studied Torah, did mitzvahs, was all about how much they understood. Then Hashem gave Himself to us. He revealed, He gave Himself to us. And we gave ourselves to Him. We became weak. But the best kind of weak. Not weak, I have no more strength. I have enough strength to permit myself, how do they say it in psychology, to be vulnerable, to be weak. Then, we had a relationship with Him, not with His intelligence. God's a pretty smart guy, right? But if you have a relationship with God, automatically have a relationship with His wisdom. And not a limited relationship. A relationship based on what He is, not based on what you understand. So the Eibishter gave us the Torah, the same Torah we had before. It stopped being a business deal. It stopped being an arrangement. It stopped being a negotiated connectedness. And it became a real relationship, an unconditional relationship. And the most important part of that process was to be weak, to be vulnerable, to be soft. Like one person with one heart. Let's keep reading, bitte. Okay, now. Und das ist verbunden, this is connected. Mit Vayichan Sham Yisro, the Jewish people rested as one person with one heart. And I'm reading on. Die Chilukim by Limud HaTorah zwischen ein Yid mit der zweiten Yid. Everybody knows that when you learn Torah, no two people are alike. One understands more, one understands less. One enjoys this part of learning, another person's a different part of learning. We're all different people, and we all learn differently. And our differences are in our understanding. Says the Rebbe Zaynab ben Igeh Sogas HaTorah, how much a person reaches, understands the Torah, separates one person from the next. Abed, page 12, first column, last paragraph, look inside, thank you. However, page 12, first column, last paragraph, beginning of the paragraph. Abed, das was a Yid verbindt sich, the fact that a Jew binds himself, through his learning Torah, as it is kula chad mit the nation Torah, to be one with Hashem. That's not the I understand you, that's I accept. And I submit. And when I accept and I submit, all of me is connected to all of you. It's an infinite bond. And the basis for it is not hardness, it's softness. It's not strength, it's weakness. Is does by them godel shebigdelim and them cotton shebiktanim is by the biggest of the big and the smallest of the small exactly the same. Relationships neutralize people. I mean, people have funny relationships, right? Relationships neutralize people. Right? If you have a very, very smart person, a man or a woman, a genius, right? A lot of them have very hard times having normal relationships. They do. Why? Because everybody's dumb. Everyone's so stupid, right? Someone's so smart. Their brain works faster than everybody else, but they don't know how to tie their shoes. When they button their shirt, the button goes in the wrong hole, but they're geniuses, yeah? If a genius manages to marry a simple person and they have a real relationship, how does that happen? How? My genius doesn't matter. My humanity matters. My genius, I'm smart, but I can't tie my shoes. She's not so smart, but she knows that I make sure I get dressed in the morning and I brush my teeth. I get up. I don't miss my appointments. Right? Two people make a marriage work, not that because they're the same, but because they have the same purpose, which is to have a relationship. So when it comes to learning Torah, this one is smart, this one's not. When it comes to relating with Baruch Hu, we're exactly the same. When der Inyan is verbunden mit Leif von Yidden, second column, page 12, this connected to the heart of the Jewish people. Weil in Pnimius and Likutas HaLeif von Yidden, in the innermost point of the Jewish heart, is Meya Yechida Shebenefesh, have the Yechid of the Neshama, the Pintal Yid. Where is the Neshama? Where is the soul? So there's a big machlekes. In Tanya it says that the Neshama is in the brain. In some place it says the Neshama is in the heart. Even though the heart is just a pump. It's the simplest organ. I didn't hear you.
In the blood?
In the heart.
No, in the blood?
It either says in the brain or in the heart, which pumps the blood. It says in the Chumash, Ki nefesh habasa badam, hadam hu nefesh, that the blood is the life. But I didn't ask you about nefesh, I asked you about neshama. But okay, your point is well taken. You're right, you're also right. So which is true? Is the neshama in the brain or in the heart? Or in the blood? One of the answers is the complexity of the neshama is in the brain. The simplicity of the neshama is in the heart. The fancy of the neshama is here. The simple is here. So you tell me which is higher, your brain or your heart?
Heart.
Huh?
No, your brain. Who is higher?
Yeah.
The head.
What's
Brain.
bigger? What's a greater accomplishment? To have a complex existence or to have an existence where you're able to accept? To be hard or soft? Strong or weak?
Soft.
So which is better, the brain or the heart? I'm confusing you, huh? On purpose.
The heart.
The answer is depends in what? If you want to talk about what makes us human and separates us from animals, of course the brain. But if you want to know what makes us human, in other words, not human that we're smart and we're sophisticated, but that we have the ability to have relationships with other people that are unconditional, it's in the heart. The Rasag, Reb Sadia Gaon writes with such passion, there's no doubt whatsoever that the neshama is in the heart. And everybody else says it's in the brain. In Chassidus they explain it this way. The Yechida Shebenefesh is here. The neshama is here. The part of the neshama that we're all the same is here. The part of the neshama we're all different is here, in the brain. Okay? Ish echad, b'leiv echad doesn't come from the brain, it comes from the heart. And the heart doesn't mean emotion. It means the ability to be soft. to let go. Und das meint, page 12, second column, second paragraph from the bottom. Und das meint, this is the meaning of Ayichan Sham Yisrael Gishachad Levachad Israel, less like one man, one heart. That kumendik neged the heart. The Jews come to the mountain. Wo had gedavd zayin maimed harsinim atan Torah, where Hashem is going to come down on the mountain and give them the Torah. Hadas, they coming to the place, the location. By Yidden Arois gerufen, it aroused the Jewish people the Isgalus, the revelation von Zeyer, Pnimius, and Ukudas Aleph, from the innermost point of the heart. What says by Allah Yidden B'Shav, which all Jews have equally, on their Gilui, and this revelation of an Akudash Aleph, that point in the heart that neutralizes our differences and makes us all the same. Hadzei gemacht varakeli, it made us a vessel to der Getlichkeit von Torah, to the divinity of Torah. They came to the mountain. The mountain represented Torah. The mountain evoked in the Jewish people to be soft. How soft? To accept Hashem unconditionally. And by becoming soft and accepting Hashem, they discovered that they can accept one another. They saw they can accept one another. Questions or comments? You better speak now because I got more to say. Astarojna. I know that word, yeah? When you go on the trains, Astarojna, the doors are going to close. Astarojna, warning, step inside in the metro in Moscow. What how do you say it? Anybody? Something Zakarayate, right? I got it wrong? What does that mean? It's going to close. Astarojna, warning. Okay, Astarojna, I'm moving on. Siv Zain, Obed, however, now girls, what's my dad? Kid. A couple gets married, yeah? And they accept each other. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it's hard. But it's not enough, right? Why isn't that enough?
So you're saying it takes 20 years to accept each other, and that's not enough?
But the other stuff happens before.
Okay.
When I say it takes 20 years, it doesn't spontaneously happen after 20 years. It's a learning exercise. And you're not learning him, you're learning yourself. It's not in our nature to accept. You learn how it's hard for me. In my relationship with my wife, I don't have to get her to accept me. I have to get me to accept her. I'm not an accepting person. I'm a judgmental person. I have a big ego. You understand? So that's what takes 20 years, how to get past yourself. The other side of it is your husband is intelligent, and he's artistic, and he's musical, and he's talented, and you like those things. The other side of a relationship is, right, you don't just accept Hashem, he's a pretty smart guy. You say, he wrote a good book called the Bible, right? They're still using it. It hasn't gone out of print. They keep reprinting it, huh? Why? Because it's a popular book. The other side of that coin is you have to use your strength. Monday, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the Jews traveled to a place called Tired. On that day, the whole avodah is to be weak and soft and accept and submit. The next day, they start to use their brains again. Because our relationship with Hashem, like your relationship with your husband, is complicated. On the one hand, it's from the heart, accept. On the other hand, it's from the mind. You can't just accept. You have to share things, right? What is the cliche that they say? What is the cliche? You know the cliche? You know the cliche? Huh? It's not enough to love your husband, you have to like him also. It's not enough to love your wife, to like her also, yeah? You have to be friends. But for this, you have to share things. This is not heart, this is brain. We accepted Hashem, but we had to enjoy His Torah. So Rosh Chodesh Sivan, we became soft and weak, we accepted. The next day we started to argue again, you understand? Aber, this preparation, from the Yichan Sham Yisro B'Lei the Jewish people rested at Har Sinai as one man with one heart, is not the erste Darge in the Achon. There's only one step. One part of having a marital relationship is accepting your spouse and being accepted by your spouse and being vulnerable to them and being trusting. Right? Durch der Meile Niflo Fu Bittul V'Yachtus. Because this incredible, top of page 13 now, this incredible Maila of Bittul and unity, Vertman Akeli to Torah, you're able to open up to Hashem and His Torah. Aber, But there's another side to the coin. The tachlis from learning Torah is, on the other hand, after you accept the Torah, you're supposed to learn it. As mezalti learning, you should learn the Torah. Mit avana vasaga, and you should absolutely understand it. Und der Pfarrer hat sich behetem und sehr gefordert. Which is why, in conjunction with the other side of this coin, it was necessary a ganze seder for the Chodesh Matan Torah. After we accepted God, then we had to like Him. Like Him means I'm smart and He's smart. We can sit and talk to each other. We have common interests. So the other side of the coin, on the one hand, the most important thing in any relationship. And by the way, one day you're going to have children. And you're going to have to accept them. And you'll find out that accepting your kids may be harder than accepting your husband sometimes, on rainy days. And they have to accept you. All real relationships are unconditional. The relationship with the person you marry is unconditional. And relationships with the products of that, the fruit of that marriage, which is your boys and your girls, they're going to be disappointing. Some of them, some of the time, I promise. You accept. This is what God gave me. This is what God gave me. Whatever it is, it's mine. Whatever it is, it's mine. I said it 5 times a day. Whatever it is, it's mine. Whatever it is, it's mine. Whatever it is, it's mine. But you know what? They're not all idiots and not idiots in all things. Some of them are kind of talented and they're right to have mindless also. The other side of the acceptance is the relationship. So Rosh Chodesh Sivan, we did the first half of the relationship, accepting. It's the most important. Beis Sivan, which was Tuesday. Gimel Sivan, which was Wednesday. Dalet Sivan, which was Thursday. And Hey Sivan, which was Friday. We also prepared ourselves. But now we prepare to have a relationship with Him based on strength, not based on weakness. And we read on. The Ershta Achana to Matan Torah is the bottom of the first column of page 13. The first preparation getting the Torah is canals. We said about 5 times already. The Jewish people rested like one man with one heart. Tachas a bittel, ultimate bittel, was pale that affects top of the second column, page 13. Now, please, as alle Yidden, all the Jewish people, we became soft. So soft that we accepted God. So soft that now accepted the gods of one another. Aber. However, what's the other side of the coin? Fun Sheni B'Sivan, beginning with the second day of Sivan, is Hischel Moshe Lis Asek. Moshe now begins to work them. Asek means to work. It's not enough to be soft. It's not enough to be accepted. Now you got to use your brain and your heart and your senses. You have to work hard to prepare yourself to receive the Torah. Was der Mitweren gemeint that this means those parts of the preparation to receive the Torah, that affect as the mitzvah to Adam, that the form of the person, that the ego of the person, that the individuality of the person, zol zayin matem beroi, should be fit and appropriate, v'keli and a vessel kibud that can receive tzukah ba'as Torah. The first day we accept. The second day we're judging again. We're not judging because we're taking back our acceptance. We're judging how to live on that basis. And now we're engaged in using our mind. You have to become a nation of priests. That's Tuesday. Mitzvahs Hakbala, that's Wednesday. Prisha, that's Thursday. V'chulu, we'll talk about this in the next Sicha. V'zeh haben Yidden heilig gemacht, they made the Jewish people holy. And in die achanas, and in these preparations, von Chilukim zwischen Yidden, there's a difference, one Jew and the other. Jeder, like Zayin Madreig, and Abaytas Hashem, all individuals, different. In Abaytas Hashem. So, Rosh Chodesh Sivan made the most important part of the preparation. The hardest thing in a marriage, accept. And I'm telling you, it's true of children. You accept your kids. You accept your kids. You accept them. And you love them. And that's what makes them healthy. If you're constantly deciding if they're good, it's not normal. When you have parents who want their children to be high achievers, and it's very important they should be successful, it's very important. But more important than anything else is unconditional love. And if the child feels like they always have to impress you and do something, and the unconditional love is lacking, then it's not a parental relationship. It's not normal, it's not healthy, it's not good. You need both. First you accept, and then you instruct. First the Yidden accepted, and then Moshe instructed. Turn back to page 14 now, back to the end of the Sicha. Okay? Verstehst? Last few lines, girls. I read that paragraph before. Once Jewish people achieve a bittul, which happened on the Monday, the 1st of Sivan, when we accepted Hashem and Hashem accepted us, and we even accepted one another. There's now a requirement as Yidden sollen sich herabtragen von dem Bitzel Otzun. The Jews should go away from the softness, from the weakness, from the bittul, from the acceptance, and discriminate. Ufanemen sich mit die andere Jani Achon, and occupy yourselves with the other aspects of preparation, and the other aspects of preparation are critical, are discriminating, are different, because you're using your brain and your heart. Questions or comments? Good Sicha, huh?
Yes.
Very good. I didn't write it.